Would you watch a show where a billionaire CEO has to go an entire month on their lowest paid employee's salary, without access to any other resources than that of the employee? What do you think would happen? 3 months minimum and I'd watch it. Thanks for the gold! Exclamation mark. With problem scenarios thrown in. Broken down car tubes strike dodgy boiler, sick child. The wheels would come off pretty quickly. And they can't choose February as one of their months. Although I'd like to see them have to have December so they have to deal with Christmas. Sure, I had to resort to being a homeless cannibal for 10 weeks, but it really wasn't that bad. There was this similar themed show in Hong Kong and mainland China years ago. They swap a billionaire with bottom feeders. Let the rich do the basic job on the lowest salary, to see how far the rich could go by purely their own effort. Nearly all of the billionaire admitted that they could not make anywhere, regardless of how hard they worked. Even working without sleeping and resting could not give you any accumulation to help climb up to the higher level of the society. There was only despair, an admission that the divide between the poor and the rich is already a deep valley and mere personal effort makes little sense. It stirred big debate among the society back then, and I think that was part of the reason the show got cancelled. There was also another show in China, swapping senior political figures with community-level council workers, to see how good they could do in each other's posts. The mayors were flooded by the angry mobs who kept asking for more and more benefits that were impossible to fulfill. By the end, had to admit the amount of work at basic community level was too much to achieve anywhere. The show also got cancelled quite soon after a few episodes. I love reality shows, so I'd watch it depending on who produces it. If it's too fake, with too many emotional moments, advertising and people shouting, I'm out. I hate that emotional moment bullshit. Kitchen Nightmares and Bar Rescue used to be great, now I can't even watch them. Same with Undercover Boss. X Factor singer, I can't sing but my granny died an hour ago and told me to follow my dream. Host, you son of a b. I'm in. Quote. It's more than just the money. It's the lack of security these people endure. Not knowing if you'll lose your job tomorrow and having no savings. Being kicked out of your home. An unexpected bill you can't afford, which may lead to increasing debt. Putting these rich people in a poor lifestyle for a month isn't enough. Even if they lost their money and homes, they'll have such a huge network that they'll be back on their feet in the time it takes for us peons to earn enough to eat for a week. They can never truly understand what it's like to be poor or ever face that reality again. So what would happen? It'd be a completely self-serving advert about how, now I realize that we need to do more for our employees. The workers get a small vanity bonus. Probably give an immigrant worker with limited English a car. Pat themselves on the back. Then 2 weeks later, we've all forgotten about the show and they'll go back to their old ways. They'd be fine. The problem with poverty is not usually day-to-day costs. People can adjust to that. It's unexpected expenses that are crippling. Edit. Why are people still responding 2 weeks later? Nobody is reading this thread anymore. At least not the responses at the bottom. Edit 2. Rant was too whiny. If you have something to say, who am I to say otherwise? It would be incredibly self-serving and boring. They would never truly experience what it is like to be in the precarious position of a minimum wage employee living hand-to-mouth, and the novelty is just salt in the wound. It would be more interesting to see the reverse. Why not both? Or trading places, as we called it back in the 80s. The reverse is called the lottery, and we know how it usually plays out. I doubt a month is enough to really feel the effect. And a camera team changes everything. I won't trust doing business with a random nobody. But a guy in suit with a whole production team following him? That's a different story. That's why reality shows are intrinsically just the shows. but it is just enough time to go. This is stressful. I'm gonna plan a trip to Bali in 26 days from now. Sure, they would never do that though, because then they would have to admit that they don't pay a living wage. Nah. All they have to do is stick it out for a month and then they can say from personal experience that it isn't that bad. Of course, they never have to deal with the effects in the long term. It's kind of like when privileged college students pretend to be homeless by camping out in the quad for a night. Lots of rich people voluntarily go on vacation to third world countries. The catch is, they know they have a way out and an end date. I'd be interested to watch a show where the CEO had to personally be financially responsible for the welfare of 50% of their lowest paid employees for 10 years. And their net growth percentage equaled their bonus every year, with a big bonus if both the company and the employees were profitable at the end. You know, most of them are just regular people, right? A billionaire CEO most likely was there at one point, and probably has the knowledge and mindset to budget accordingly. It would be boring as F. The fascination, hate with rich people is crazy considering everyone is working to get richer. Isn't this almost the same as Secret Millionaire? Do you guys have that in the US? Yeah, a slightly different premise though, as OP's suggestion is for the salary to be what the person pays their employees, to encourage some awareness of their livelihood, I guess, rather than the minimum wage of the country. I'd do more than a month and without any contact to rich buddies either. If it's a month, I think a lot would just buy rice and beans every day and go, see? It's super easy to be poor. You just need to make economical choices. I've proven myself right. Longer than that and they'll really have to get used to how their lowest paid employees live. Would they learn a lesson? Maybe. Likely not. They still have a mansion to come back home to. They'll give their lowest paid people a one-time bonus, or maybe they'll drag one out in front of a camera to give them a fancy car so their own reputation gets better. And then they won't change anything else. I'll be a contrarian here and say that I bet they would be able to thrive. Usually the CEO of a company got to that position because they are an uber-talented human. Obvious exceptions excluded. I think a CEO would be able to manage their resources effectively and make it work. They would just treat it as a novelty since they know they will be getting their billions back at the end of the month. They wouldn't have to truly live like a person does who lives hand to mouth every day of their lives. They wouldn't really learn anything from it. In fact, they would probably look back on it and laugh. Oh, remember when we had to eat that can of ravioli, ha ha ha. Quote. They would treat it like going on safari. No, I wouldn't want it. I think it would be boring. A lot of people seem to think that all billionaire CEOs just luck their way into their fortunes. In reality, the majority of them started as hungry and broke college students with a dream. Living frugally, they made sacrifices to achieve their goals. That being said, there is some luck involved. There are a lot of great business people who don't make it as the markets are flooded with people bringing new ideas and products to the masses. Only so many can catch fire and survive, let alone be mega successful. I say it would be boring because I believe these billionaire CEOs would adapt to their situation and be just fine. They only make minimum wage now? Well, they would live a minimum wage lifestyle and likely do it better than most people, living cheap and saving money to get themselves out of the situation. As that kind of attitude and determination is what got a large portion of them into their current situation as it is. Of course, some people were born into money, and you could say that a large portion of the world's wealthy are so due to their family money. But when it comes to starting and building a company and becoming a billionaire as CEO, it's simply not the case in the majority. 1 month isn't long enough because no rent is due, etc. Indeed, 1 year more be more fitting. 1 month is nothing. Depends if he is self-made or not. Self-made rich people often know very well what it means to be poor, and that's why they worked so hard to not be. Don't come here with all that logic. Everyone on Reddit knows that if you obtain title of CEO, President, VP, then automatically you were born into money and don't understand the true value of a dollar. There was an episode of American Dad where they tried to live on minimum wage for a month. It was fantastic. Stan ended up being a drug addict in 3 days, right? It would be better if they had to live with their lowest salaried employee for a month or two. Emo. In their house. Dinner with the family. Travel to and from work together. Same lunch. Kids with homework. The works. Building that relation. Would emo do much more for this problem than just experiencing below your normal standard of living before returning to it? You're more likely to feel empathy for a family you know, and much less likely to forget them. Anything else would just be another show about wealthy people having a fun adventure to talk about at cocktail parties. I support raising the minimum wage, and the concept definitely resonates. But the show concept is not going to be life-changing for anyone involved. I will brace for the down votes. But I don't understand why we fault people for making a lot of money, as long as they do it honestly. The dark secret of any executive, athlete, artist, actor, etc., who makes an exceptional amount of money is that this is what the market will pay them. The CEO of Company X likely has a skill set that is very useful for planning corporate strategy that few people have, and that takes decades to develop. Understanding of finance, ability to read market trends, skilled negotiating partnerships and labor agreements. If they're good at this, the company and its shareholders, if they're publicly traded, will also benefit. So, this is in many ways an investment. As for the workers who earn less, we should raise the minimum wage. But they too are free to seek employment elsewhere if someone will pay them more money. It doesn't make sense getting angry at market dynamics. If any company were to apply a policy overnight that we are going to pay our CEO the same as our line workers, you would likely see that company go bankrupt soon, as because the only people willing to do that job at that price probably don't have the experience to do it wisely. All the qualified candidates took jobs at your competitors' factories where they were offered more. Same is true for basketball or any other sport. People pay you money because they believe you'll make them money. Edit. Clarified thought on workers' wages.